On June 28, 2025, the building at 900 Main Street was torn down. Known recently for being the home of Hunter Gatherer Brewery, it was also the home of the I Love My Friends mural, dedicated to local musician Aaron Graves, who died in 2019 of a brain tumor. This is the story of how a community fought to preserve the memories of their friend and the history of the building.
I love my friends. I want to tell them every day that I do. I must defend everything that I believe to be true.
When Historic Columbia learned that the property had been purchased last fall, in fall of 2024, we kind of figured that the handwriting might be on the wall, so to speak, for the building's future. 900 Main Street was built in 1913. It was what I would call a historic building with a little h, insofar as it was very important as a tangible link to the capital city's commercial past. But unfortunately, the building and the property itself did not have any kind of covenants. It wasn't part of a historic district in which there was any kind of overview or preservation overlays. So while the building was old and had a lot of memories for many people, and arguably could have been and should have been preserved in situ, it didn't benefit from many of the things that historic preservationists typically advocate for. That precipitated conversations about, well, what can we do to mitigate the impact of the building's loss? And of course, that building meant a lot of things to a lot of different people, including those who appreciated the public art that was on the north elevation of the building. So by virtue of that public art being located there, that was an opportunity for Historic Columbia to work with Lauren in trying to figure out how best the mural could be preserved, or attributes of it could be preserved and salvaged for either the future rebuilding of the wall somewhere in toto, or perhaps just utilizing aspects of the wall, parts of the wall, some of the brick that could be salvaged in a way that would pay homage to the previous public art, but also kind of create a new type of public art as well.
After Aaron's passing, a fundraiser was started to create a mural that would honor his legacy in Columbia. His band, Those Lavender Whales, often played at Hunter Gatherer, making it a natural location for the memorial mural.
I had been working in murals actually very recently, and I had been posting them on my socials, and a mutual friend of me and Aaron's was at the memorial, Heather Parsons, and she came up to me and she was like, "Oh, what do you think about doing a memorial mural of Aaron?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds really cool." And then from there, I started kind of gathering information from friends and family, making sure that we got the right details and stuff for the mural itself, and bouncing designs back and forth. I recently was looking at designs, I think there were 6 drafts or something like that. So wanted everyone to feel really good about what went in the mural. We also fundraised for it, so Heather got with the owner of Hunter Gatherer. They did percent nights there. We also sold t-shirts with the design. We did, they also had a band night where they sold tickets and stuff. So it was really crowdfunded. It was really cool. It was a brutal time in terms of the elements, and it was very low budget and stuff, but just I felt like I was with him, and I felt just his joy while I was there. And then the reception of the mural also was just so sweet and made everything feel so worth it as well. I've met so many people that I wouldn't have met before, because they knew Aaron through some other, circle. I mean, he was really involved in many different little subcultures of Columbia, and so it's just been neat to see people that I didn't know Aaron in this capacity, but they did,
Aaron was my best friend. We met in high school through skateboarding, and then became fast friends, and then started playing music together. We were kind of in our first bands that did more than just play in a garage. We had a group of friends of maybe, I don't know, 20 or so musicians that would play music together, attend one another's shows or concerts, and then, every few months or years or so reshuffle and form a new set of bands. But it was kind of like this collective of musicians. So it was like, oh, we should think of a name for our crew or our whatever. And so the wooden fork and spoon decorations over there came from his grandmother. They were wall decorations that she had had all his life, and eventually she moved in with his parents and it was like in the pile of things to get rid of. And he was like, no, don't get rid of those. With that fork and spoon just hanging right above the recording station or whatever. It was like, fork and spoon recordings, fork and spoon records. Jordan and Aaron and I were like, let's take this a little more seriously. Let's start this record label so we can document and preserve the music our friends are making and the music we can see around in our community. It was unfortunate and it felt unnecessary. I remember the university purchasing the property, and as soon as that happened, it's just kind of uh-oh. Everybody kind of knew that was likely, that the building would be taken down after the purchase of the property.
I found out, I guess there was a press release that came out, and people started reaching out to me actually and telling me, oh, Hunter Gatherer's been bought, how do you feel? Or is there anything gonna be done about the mural? The woman who reached out to me gave me the email of the gentleman at the foundation, and we actually started a little email writing campaign. So I had an Instagram, an old one, and so I turned it into I Love My Friends Mural Instagram because it already had some following and stuff. And then we started using that as a way to communicate with the community about the mural itself.
That email call prompted the USC Foundation getting in touch with Jessica and Lauren. Early on, we were looking to see if there was any type of way to preserve the mural in whole or in part. And then the plan after that was to preserve some of the materials. We were kind of trying to reach out to different organizations in town that have a skill set to help us along in the process, because I've never tried to preserve a building or anything like that.
So the field of historic preservation is one that to some degree is kind of all-encompassing, but for the most part, people automatically think it's the preservation of tangible links to our built culture. And so the retention of historic sites, historic buildings, landscapes, neighborhoods, districts, and things of that nature. Typically trying to maintain those buildings and structures and sites in their historic form. But in some cases, historic preservation has to take a slightly different turn, and that can be simply the retention of historic building materials. So in this instance, we had a unique opportunity to, as I said, work with the public artists, work with the property owners, and also engage the services of Conway Salvage, and by extension, Repurpose Savannah, in harvesting finite materials, brick, structural, lumber, and things of that nature that would allow for essentially the essence and a lot of the energy. You think of energy in public art, there's also energy in buildings, and to allow that type of energy to live on in other buildings henceforth.
We're outsiders in the sense that we're based in Conway, and so when we came in, we found out that the building, the destiny of this building was kind of written in stone. It had to go away. We don't want to take down buildings, especially historic buildings. However, we certainly do not want to see them demolished and landfilled. That is the alternative in the cases in which we come in, and that was the case here with Hunter Gatherer, with the former Hunter Gatherer, or what we are calling 900 Main Street. The situation as it is now is every brick of this building, except for a few that might get a little crumbly, But virtually every brick of this building will be saved and reused in some form. Unfortunately, we will have to likely use an excavator to bring down the walls in a way that we can then gather them up and have them reused. That's, of course, going to impact the mural on the wall. And I am taking on the responsibility of making sure that that wall mural is treated with the love and respect it deserves. Functionally, we hope to save just about every piece of this building and as much of the mural as we can for it to live on.
When I had initially gotten the designs from Claude Gilbert for the whale and the clouds, I was very shy to really do his designs the way that he had designed them. It was my first time using spray paint, and I literally was using like Home Depot brand spray paint and Michael's like Martha Stewart craft paint. And every time I passed by that wall, especially after it got faded over the years, I was like, oh, I would really love to go back and like, you know, add more color to it and the designs and stuff. And so then when I found out the wall was coming down, I was like, it's now or never, we're gonna do this thing, you know? And then knowing that we're taking it down and then putting it back together later, like I wanted the new layer over it to go before we took it down because I wanted it to be a part of that experience.
The story, I think, behind what I know about Aaron, you know, I never met Aaron, but is that he's on this wall and there's a mural of him because of his love for everybody and because of his spirit of bringing people together and his joy for community. And if anything, I want to see the mural kind of being a conduit for that, but certainly the bricks, a conduit to kind of spread his spirit out a little further than perhaps it is now.
I'm so proud of my friends. I'm so proud of what they do. I want to support them. I hope they hold me up too. I know we're all walking, but will we know when we're through?
I feel amazing about it, honestly. It feels like getting to see something evolve. It's like a living piece of artwork. We've talked as a team too about like not putting it up exactly the same. To me, it's like a mirror of life, birth, death, and rebirth.
There's good types of growing, but there's also some really bad types of growing. There's good types of people, but I don't think that there's really bad types of people. They just may be kind of confused, or they